what their profile is on Facebook becomes really the performance of their identity. And people say to me, well, look, young people have always performed their identity. You know, that's not so new. The difference is the role that this Facebook profile has taken in really people's sense of their essence and the way they're looked at by other kids. And also that it's a 24/7 thing. I mean, you know, people are going to sleep with their phones. So people say they know when their phones are ringing, even when their phones aren't around. It's so much become a kind of phantom limb. There's a kind of sense that your phone is part of you, that you get anxious when your phone isn't with you. And this performance of identity, kids even become so anxious about this performance of self that sometimes they feel they need to take a break from that performance of identity on Facebook. And I think that confusion of, you know, are you what you perform online or are you somebody else is something that particularly adolescents have a very, very hard time sorting out.
I was featured, and I'm raising this to make a point, not to put this out there, but I was featured a couple months ago in a Business Week story, and on the cover of the magazine had a funny headline that said, "What do Warren Buffett and Tavis Smiley have in common?" The answer, absolutely nothing. except the fact that neither one of them uses a cell phone. And it is true that I do not own a cell phone. Now, I used to own a cell phone, and I know the pressure, literally, that one feels from his family, his friends, his co-workers and colleagues when he decides that he's no longer going to use a cell phone for whatever reasons. I raise that to ask, even if you wanted to check out in this era, in this age, how does one do that? How do you just check out when everybody else is doing it?
Well, I think that's a problem because, you know, people talk about addiction, and I don't like the metaphor of addiction because if you say you're addicted, that this is a problem of addiction, there's only one thing you can do, which is to get rid of it. And I don't think we really have that option anymore. Well, I'll talk to you later about what you're doing. But, you know, you essentially, you need an email account to be in college. I mean, that is really how your professors get to you. That's how you get your homework. I mean, you need to have an email account. So I think it's much more healthy to think about this more the way you think about food. You don't have the option of not eating. You have to think about a healthy diet. You have to think about how you're going to deal with food. And I think that's really the point we're at, is how we're going to live a healthy life with this technology. You know, we don't have to interrupt our friends at a meal to check what stranger has texted us.
But you know what the response is? The response given, quite frankly, most often by parents. This is the excuse that parents, adults give, and even young folk are given the same excuse. It might be an emergency, Professor Turkle. I don't know. I've got to check because it might be an emergency.
Well, you know, this question of emergencies, I've really looked into that. And I said, when I'm out to dinner with my colleagues, and I'm a professor, so I'm out to dinner with other professors, I say to them, are we really going to have some epistemological emergencies here? I mean, what kind of emergencies are we talking about? I mean, you know, people know when they have a child in the hospital. People know when there's someone ill in the family. I mean, we've created a sense of emergency, that these phones are for emergencies. Our children are living lives of constant interruption. I interview kids, you know, they tell me they come out of school, they're looking for that moment of eye contact with their parents, and the mother, let's just take the mother, is sitting there on her BlackBerry, on her iPhone, you're texting, and the child, you know, so many of the children I interview actually their families are divorced, and their parents are divorced, and the child comes out looking for that eye contact with the mother, and the mother is texting, or a child is, you know, fathers and sons used to watch football on Sunday, and the father would, you know, in between plays or during commercials, they would chat, and now the father is sitting there, you know, doing stuff on his BlackBerry. These sons miss their dad. They miss their dad.
So beyond the excuse, I think, that many of us give that there may be an emergency jumping off, for those of us who are in the business world, or the common refrain, as you well know, is that it may be the office. And I raise that because it is true that we live in an ever more competitive world. And if you, I mean, let me just give myself as an example. if there is a particular person who's trying to get to me, who may want to offer me an exclusive, and I've got, and I don't have the phone, or I don't check the phone, and they don't hear from me, and that exclusive goes to Barbara Walters or Charlie Rose or Katie Couric or somebody. I mean, the point I'm making is that people really do feel like if they don't have access immediately, they're going to miss out on an opportunity at work or someplace else.
I'm just saying that we've taken this to an extreme where at any moment we feel that we can sort of bail out on the people we're with, on the work situation we're at, during faculty meetings, during classes, during dinner with friends, during, and go to someplace else. And we have to find a balance so that we can live really a more fulfilling life with this technology. So I want you to have your exclusive. I want people to know when they've gotten into college, to know when something wonderful's happened to them. I'm not suggesting to unplug, but I study people texting at funerals, people texting during shiva calls, which is a Jewish rite when you visit the family of people who've lost a parent. I mean, something is amiss.
Right.
But I certainly think you're right that we're not about to throw it over, and we'll get better at finding a balance. We're not going to give it up.
I'm glad you said that. It sounds to me like everything else in life, which is really about balance and moderation. I hear the point you're making loud and clear. Professor Sherry Turkle's new text is called Alone Together: Why We Expect More from Technology and Less from Each Other. Professor Turkle, thank you for the text, and thanks for the chance to talk to you about it.
Thank you. My pleasure.